you ready for this? You ready for this? You ready for this?
Welcome to this continuing series from Morgan Rees.
Hi, this is Morgan Rees. Thank you for joining me. Since day one, I've been a huge fan of the Beatles, reading everything I could get my hands on. So today I've put together this little video that capsulizes a lot of these factoids, and I want to share them with you. And I do hope you enjoy them. Decca Records really blew it when they turned down the Beatles.
On New Year's Day, 1962, the Beatles auditioned for Decca Records and recorded 15 songs in just over an hour. But Decca opted to pass on the Beatles and instead signed local rocker Brian Poole and the Tremolos. The Decca disappointment was a blessing in disguise. The Beatles found producer George Martin and signed with EMI and replaced the original drummer with Pete Best with Ringo Starr. Things turned out okay for Decca Records. They signed the Rolling Stones the following year.
The Beatles recorded most of their debut album in a single day. The first lyrics to Yesterday was scrambled eggs.
Mal Evans was the Beatles' road manager and an unconventional contributor to some of their biggest hits. He was responsible for sounding the alarm clock in A Day in a Life, and he struck the cowbell on With a Little Help from My Friends.
The Beatles are cited frequently of being the #1 band and the most important rock band of all history. John, Paul, George, and Ringo have notched up 20 #1 hits on the Billboard Top 100 list. As of last year, they have sold 182 million records just in the United States. Whether you're chasing the band through Liverpool or crossing Abbey Road, here are some interesting facts about the band.
Sir Paul McCartney has confirmed that when the Beatles recorded the Sgt. Pepper album in 1967, they placed a sound in the recording that only dogs can hear.
John Lennon actually grew up in a place called Strawberry Fields in Liverpool. There's also a Strawberry Fields Forever memorial area in the New York City Central Park. The two left-handed members of the Beatles are Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr. Ringo Starr's real name is Richard Starkey. Ringo Starr wrote Octopus's Garden after a real undersea phenomena. People are obsessed with the opening chord of It's a Hard Day's Night. After the 1967 hit Penny Lane came out, the city of Liverpool got fed up with replacing the street signs, so they ended up painting it on the side of a building. Hungry? Here's a list of foods that were mentioned in the Beatles songs.
Foods mentioned in the Beatles songs: cornflake, marshmallows, octopus, pies, honey, strawberries, truffles, turkey, eggs, pepper.
It took 4 men and 3 pianos to make that sustained chord at the very end of Day in a Life. The BBC banned the Beatles' I Am the Walrus. On January 30th, 1969, the Beatles performed their last live concert on the roof of Abbey Road recording studios.
The Beatles' rooftop performances alternative locations discussed. Although suggestions such as the Giza Pyramids, the Sahara Desert, and the ancient Roman amphitheaters were made as potential locations for the performance, the idea for the Beatles to perform on the rooftop of Apple was conceived only days earlier as a compromise after enthusiasm for the project diminished. Finalist considerations: 2 live shows, an art museum with dogs in the audience, no audience, or a fan club show. At around midday on a cold, windy day in London, the 30th of January, 1969, John, Paul, George, and Ringo stepped out on the rooftop of Apple headquarters, and so followed one of the most legendary live performances in pulp culture history. After pressure from the Metropolitan Police to end the performance became severe, at 12:42 p.m. the Beatles stopped playing their instruments. In the 42 minutes that the Beatles played on the rooftop that day, their unsuspecting audience got to hear 5 new Beatles songs, which it must have been the best lunch break of all time. Several takes of Get Back, Don't Let Me Down, I've Got a Feeling, Once After 909, and Dig a Pony were played, as well as a short impromptu jam of God Save the Queen, while sound engineer Alan Parsons changed tapes down in the basement studio.
This is Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. It was the first rock album to ever have all of the lyrics placed on the backside cover.
Peter Blake and his wife at the time, Jan Haworth, are celebrated as the creators of the sleeve art of the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper album. The Beatles' Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Heart Club Band album cover, 1967, contained a mix of life-size images of some well-known people, such as Marilyn Monroe, waxworks models of the Beatles themselves, as well as themselves as real people, plants, and a floral display that portrayed the name of the group in red flowers. Why the Sgt. Pepper's cover art matters as much as the music. The Sgt. Pepper's cover expanded the notion of what's possible and of freedom. The cover, as much as the final famous chord in A Day in a Life, signifies the same kind of idea. Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Heart Club Band is acknowledged nearly universally as one of the most well-known and influential rock albums of its time, and that the artwork on the cover is just as important as the music. The Beatles' Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Heart Club Band insert cutouts and art. When the Beatles released Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Heart Club Band in 1967, they inserted in the LP sleeve a set of Sgt. Pepper cardboard cutouts. The set included a mustache, a picture card of Sgt. Pepper, Sgt. Stripes, 2 badges, and a Beatles Sgt. Pepper Band stand-up.
Talk about the White Beatle album. Actually, that's not its name. The correct name is The Beatles, and it represents purity, and that's why they went with this motif.
Richard Hamilton, the father of pop art, who designed the Beatles' iconic white album cover. Hamilton's design contrasts strongly with the exuberant, colorful, and busy cover art on Sgt. Pepper, designed by Hamilton's former student, pop artist Pete Blake, and his wife, Jan Haworth. Perhaps because the Blake's cover is so deeply inspired by Hamilton, Hamilton rebelled against his own style, choosing simple lines for the white album that make it unlike most of the other pop art produced in its era.
First release of the album were numbered. The Beatles kept the first 4 copies.
The poster contained with the album consisted of artist Richard Hamilton's full-color photo montage on the front side and the lyrics to all 30 songs printed on its reverse side.
This is the last Beatle album available in both mono and stereo. The Beatles' White Album is the only Beatle album with a guest guitarist, Eric Clapton, playing on George Harrison's song, While My Guitar Gently Weeps. The only Beatles album without a photograph of the band on the front cover. The Beatles album of extremes. This is the longest playing Beatle album, an hour and a half, has the longest playing song, Helter Skelter, the 27-minute version, and it has the shortest playing song, Her Majesty, coming in at 23 seconds. It was the longest gap between album releases, a year and a half after their landmark album, Sgt. Pepper.
In 1967, Beatles manager Brian Epstein commissioned fashion and portrait photographer for Harper's Bazaar and Vogue, Richard Avedon, to photograph the band members and design a set of posters that would visually capture the new psychedelic direction of the Beatles' music. The posters were first published in the January 9, 1968 U.S. edition of Look magazine, special edition in the Sound and Fury in the Arts. John, Trippy Eyeglasses, Paul, Flower Power, George, Spiritual, Ringo, Peace Dove. The iconic pop art images were part of a complete set of 5 posters, psychedelic Beatle posters, and the black and white banner. I had the good fortune of seeing Richard Avedon's work up close at the MoMA, the Museum of Modern Art. Each Beatle had solo hits at the same time in the charts.
I hope you enjoyed those factoids. I tried to keep it short and on topic. So until next time we see each other, I'll see you on the internet.
If you'd like to learn more, log on to www.morganrees.com. That's morganrees.com. Thanks for listening.